Welcome everyone to week number 3. We're already deep into the semester now. Let's take a look at what we learned last week. You learned all about inorganic and organic chemistry, the chemistry that's behind life, and so we all need to have a common understanding of those molecules. And of course, I mentioned to you in last week's announcements that you know a lot of these terms. You know what carbohydrates are, proteins, lipids, which include fats, and nucleic acids. Also, you worked on making the connection between fossil fuels and global climate change, including global warming, because of course fossils are organisms, dead organisms, and when we burn up those dead organisms, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and the carbon dioxide helps to trap heat. It acts as an insulator in the atmosphere, and it traps heat, and that contributes to warming of the globe. So that was last week. This week is one of my very favorite topics, bacteria. You know, I'm a microbiologist, so I love my bacteria. And it's also about antibiotic resistance, which is one of my favorite topics in the whole world. So this is my week. The chapters that you need to read are a little bit funky. So chapters 20, section 1. So it's just the section of chapter 20 on classification. And classification is just putting organisms into categories. That's basically what it is. And that helps us organize organisms so that we understand what they are and how they're related to each other. So classification schemes. And then chapter 4 is all about bacteria. Yay, microbes. So you'll learn a lot about them. Take a look at the Module 3 overview. There are only a few slides in that, and watch the videos that are included in Module 3. One of them, you have to watch an ad for HBO before the video actually starts, but it's good. And one of the videos is about the human microbiome, and those are the microbes that live in and on us. And the very interesting thing about that is that we know so little about the microbes that normally live in and on us. So this is a huge, hot field of research in science, studying the human microbiome and which microbes should we have and which ones could be detrimental, which ones change our health in good ways and bad ways. We need to understand all of this. So this is a very hot field of research right now. I've included an additional video that will help show you how antibiotic resistance works in this world. It is a phenomenal experiment. I ran across it just a couple of years ago because it's a brand new experiment. It's the Harvard Antibiotic Resistance Study that was conducted in 11 days. And you will see right in front of your eyes how antibiotic resistance occurs in bacteria and how quickly it occurs over 11 days. It's a huge petri dish, 2 feet by 4 feet, and they've put different quantities and concentrations of antibiotics in the different segments, and then you will watch the bacteria grow. This is a phenomenal experiment, and it really helps to highlight how fast antibiotic resistance occurs in bacteria. Your discussion board postings this week will be about why antibiotics target bacterial cells and not ours. And this is an important idea because if you take a drug that will kill cells, then that drug will kill your cells as well as bacterial cells that you're trying to get rid of. So there have to be different targets for these drugs in bacterial cells than in our cells so that we don't die when we take the drug. So you're going to look that up. And you'll also be examining the topic of antibiotic resistance. especially making superbugs like MRSA, which is methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. You have probably heard of it. You may have been infected with it before. You probably know someone who's had a MRSA infection. And MRSA, so the explanation for MRSA is these are staph bacteria that a lot of us carry on our skin, but they have become resistant to whole classes of antibiotics. When it says methicillin resistant, it doesn't mean to one single antibiotic. That's a whole class of antibiotics. So if you get this particular type of staph infection, it's very difficult to kill these bacteria. They persist. And in fact, on your medical records, if you ever have been diagnosed with MRSA, that information will follow you for the rest of your life. You will always be considered MRSA positive because they are so difficult to kill. There still will probably be some of these bacteria in your skin or in your body, wherever they showed up. So that's your discussion board postings this week. Very interesting. I'm going to love reading these. You'll also begin your final project. So, of course, you need to choose a topic. I mentioned this last week. I gave you that list. You can also choose your own topic. You don't have to use one of these, but you have to email me and get it okayed before you move on. So, you are going to outline Section 1 and Section 2 for your final project. I want you to look at the Milestone 1 guidelines and rubric. This is not a simple outline where you just put a few words down. You have to do descriptions. So your introduction to your topic has to include why this is important, how it happens, just a basic overview of what your topic is about. Say deforestation of the Amazonian rainforest. So what does that mean? Of course, it means cutting down trees. Where does it happen? How does it happen? Why does it happen? Just the very basics are going to be in the introduction. And then in the critical elements of the topic, you're going to explain which ecosystems or the biomes that are affected by this particular environmental topic. You're going to talk about how this happens and which species benefit from this happening. So who benefits from deforestation of the Amazonian rainforest? Well, somebody has to, otherwise they wouldn't cut down the trees. So think about that, figure it out, do some research. Make sure you follow the guidelines in the rubric. And as I mentioned in my very first video, make sure that you organize your work and have everything labeled, every section. So if there's a section called how, then that needs to say it somewhere in your outline. How does this happen? Where does this happen? Who does this affect? So make sure you label the topics so that I can find everything. And I think we'll have a great week. So let's get started with week number 3.